Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast four of the series that we are doing. And this probably is the last one for this year, 2024, though, but it's on a very, very interesting topic. This is a part one of the series that we are doing on artificial lighting design. And the guest speaker today is none other than a very dear friend, a college senior, and a pioneer in the field of lighting design. And he holds an international expertise with his projects just all over the world. You name it, and he's done it. India, Middle East, Singapore, and now UK as well. So the name of his boutique lighting design studio, I'm sure all of you must have come across it, is Lightbook, that's based in New Delhi and now in London. A trained lighting designer from the very prestigious IED Milan. Let's all welcome Vinayak Diwan. How are you, Vinayak, today?
Hi Shweta, how are you doing?
All is well. A very, very warm welcome to you. And so grateful to you, so thankful to you that you've made time for this podcast for us and for our audience.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me for this podcast. I know it's long pending, but finally
Yeah.
we have time to really do it, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for it.
So I remember we just were having a very informal conversation a few weeks back where we were just discussing, how you've evolved into this a very interesting field and how light as a principle has always intrigued you and a bit about your life journey. And we would just like to, and probably, I also remember that you were talking about how this subject or say this field is always taken very lightly when you talk about doing projects, and people still don't know what there is to offer, or probably what is the role and scope of of a lighting designer in a project, and how important is it for all of us, whether we are architects, interior designers, urbanists, all of us, including the common man and the clients, who also form a large part of the audience base for us. How important is it to understand lighting as a concept? So let's start from the very fundamental basics, that who is a lighting designer, and why do you think that we all need one?
Great. No, thanks for this, Shweta, and I hope the background of my Zoom call is going to help people with some interesting lighting ideas too. Uh, you
Yeah,
know, but coming back to your question, see, it's a very pertinent question which you have asked. And despite being in the industry for almost 20 years plus, we still have to educate people to who we are, you know. Um, but coming back to a very professional level of a reply to your question of who a lighting designer is, see, I'll reply to your question in two parts. Just a very basic layman, what who lighting designers are. See, this term basically was coined in 1900s, where people used to do lighting for the theater, and people who were involved in the theater used to create lighting scenes and lighting layers to make a beautiful show. And lighting
right,
design term was actually coined in 1900s, where the theater lighting people were there. But slowly, I think some would realize that we need to also start creating lighting for the projects we are doing in America, because this is where the whole industrial revolution was happening, and buildings
right,
were made, and people realized that we need to also illuminate our buildings well. And the same theater lighting designers were actually requested that why don't you do some projects for us? And this is where the lighting designers from theater came into the architectural lighting part. And then formally, in 1935, an architect, Mr. Richard Kelly, in America, he actually officially took this responsibility to take this subject of lighting design more professionally forward. He is the man responsible to work with famous architects like Mies van der Rohe, Philip
oh, I
Johnson,
see.
and Richard Kelly made projects like Seagram Building, Kimball Art Museum. These are quite remarkable projects he did at that time as lighting designers. And of course, he put a whole encyclopedia and a Bible for lighting design. And so this is how the journey of lighting design has started, you know. But now coming to our language and to our, day and age to where we are basically technical people part artist, part technician, who are trying to create a beautiful lighting story for our clients and for our projects, right? It is it is a beautiful combination of artistry along with technique, along with of course the electrical part of it, and creating the lighting stories and the lighting design what the buildings now required, you know. So this is how I think this is who lighting designers are now, and this is what we are trying to create for all clients, all over the world. And of course, there's so many of us now, of course, in India now. Yes.
And also, I mean, looking from the client side, I can always say that, we as architects, I mean, of course, you are also trained as an architect, and we always have a lot of services to take care of, say, lighting, air conditioning, plumbing, firefighting. So you can always say that it falls under our purview as a part of our educational background. So our clients can always argue that we have an architect and he's more than enough for this. So what do you have to say about this?
See, when I used to work as an architect, of course, we used to make our own lighting layouts, right? But as the projects have gone forward and the way architectural fraternity has evolved and the way our architectural projects have evolved, they have become more complex,
Right,
right? While maybe for a small apartment, you as an architect can still do it. But somewhere the complexities have gone up. The services, the HVAC, the MEPs have gone up, where a lot of coordination is required. But before that, I think the clients have realized that we want a beautiful looking project. And to make
right,
a beautiful looking project, good lighting is very important because our industry has spent a lot of money on different products. And of course, we still give emphasis to
of
furniture,
course.
we give
Right,
emphasis to the accessories. But somewhere I think now the clients are realizing the lighting is something which has to be given importance. This is where our role come into the picture. And this is where we as lighting designers are helping the other architects and interior designers, urban designers to get lighting into the main platform of a subject and create those beautiful lighting concepts and the buildings for the people. Because end of the day, what you see in the day is absolutely different in the nighttime. So
right.
what is your lighting story for the evening? What is your concept for the night? You know? So this is where I think this thought process is getting evolved and people are looking forward to seeing their buildings in the evening now. Right. So I think this is how our fraternity is evolving, and this is how lighting is coming into the main foray in the industry.
Yes, of course. The world has changed now, and it's just getting more rapidly changing. But are you, just for the general audience out there, are you guys unaffordable, or is it just a misconception that the industry has created? Just want to know that.
See, I will answer your question a little differently. You say unaffordable. Of course, it's not that. It's just a misconception. We are unaffordable. You just have to see what is the value we are bringing on the table for you. A client who's spending X amount of money on lighting is actually spending that money without any knowledge of the subject.
Right, right,
And imagine if that same client allocates, let's say 10%, 15 or 20% of their lighting budget on a consultant, at least he knows that the money spent is will be done more wisely, right? See, light is emotional. Light it's an intangible subject. Not everybody
right.
has understanding. You need to have an
I
education, you
agree.
need to have experience, you need to have that perceptual value, that how you're perceiving lighting. It is not just about the quantity anymore. It is not just about the lux levels anymore on the table. People are talking about now the quality of the lighting. This is where our industry is evolving. Of course, in offices, it's all about quantity. But when you talk about hotels, luxury houses, beautiful looking apartments, the hotels we go to, the resorts we go to, what really fascinates anybody? Uh, it's all about lighting in the evening, and I think this is where people would like to go where the lighting is done well, and they have a repeat client all the time. And I think wherever I speak on social platforms and on public platforms, I always tell people that good design is good business, always. You know. So if you are giving emphasis on the subject of lighting also, I'm sure it's going to bring back the value to what you are really looking for. So it's just a misconception that we are unaffordable. You just have to allocate some aspect of it to understand that what really this person or this individual is going to bring on the table and the same project, which we are imagining can be done well and can be executed well and actually can look well at the end of the day.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the product or the output that you kind of envisage might be just 10x than what the client would have imagined just with a very small investment, is what I understand. And what, according to you, is the definition of good lighting?
This question can be answered in many ways, but I will just keep it simple for I think for our audiences.
Yeah,
Uh, See, good lighting can be a good lighting concept. A good lighting can be a good lighting layout, you know. But for a general layman language and for our audience to understand, it is going to be a mix of pretty much everything. A good lighting layout, a good lighting concept, a good lighting product, a good lighting selection, how we are treating the usage of natural lighting in our projects, how are we utilizing that, you know, and how are we then complementing the natural lighting in the projects with the artificial lighting in the evening, you know, and what kind of color temperatures are we talking about, or what kind of usage there is of a space, how are you treating your living spaces, how are you treating your bedrooms, how are you treating your kitchen, how are you treating your wardrobe areas. It can be a mix of everything, but end of the day, holistically, if you really sum up of everything, a good lighting will be a mix of all these technical aspects along with a good lighting layering. And when I talk about a good lighting layering, which I'm sure your audiences are quite well versed, who listen to you, it will be basically a combination of a good ambient lighting, a good task lighting, right? And this is how a different layering can be evolved for the people. So it's going to be a mix and match of many different things. And that is why, you need and help of a professional who can guide you well, that don't just think about putting four lighting dots in the ceiling. Go beyond that. See how are you treating your spaces, you know. So because lighting has just gone beyond just putting four spots in the ceiling.
right. I was coming to that, because I think when we talk about achieving these kind of amazing results in the interiors, the exteriors, or streetscapes, or say now there is this uh, there's heritage buildings. There's so much to do. So, if you would guide a little bit, on this, that how to. I know it's like I'm sure there's a master class on this you can take, but what are the basic guidelines that somebody people should follow before deciding any kind of lighting product that they should use for their homes or their offices?
See, like I said, uh, lighting products are now becoming statement pieces now, you know.
Right.
And of course, lighting products can, in a definition, can be given both for architectural lighting, which we call the downlights, and the basic functional lighting you do, and of course the decorative, right? And these lighting products for different projects have different meaning. A corporate project also has an architectural lighting, but they will give an emphasis to glare control, glare value. The people who are sitting there should not have the glare. They should feel more comfortable while they're working. They should have because lighting, of course, has health impacts also, as we all know, right? So for a corporate level, that lighting product has to be of an utmost good quality for the user and for the people to feel well at the end of the day after working on the desk for 8 hours. Whereas for home, a lot of clients will give emphasis on a very good lighting product, which is decorative. Because, like I said, these decorative products have become statement pieces. And
Right.
there are companies around the world who are coming to India. Right. So,
Yeah.
a good lighting product, like everyone has its own thing. A lot of people will like a chandelier or a light installation made out of glass, made out of brass objects. There's so many materials now available, right? People are talking about origami now. People are talking about different kind of light statements out of paper. You know, of course, with the wabi-sabi concept of Japanese, people are experimenting with a lot of things in their houses. So every lighting product has its own thing, but like I always say, have a look, understand what this product is actually going to do to your house, do to your project. Don't just pick it up. just blindly. Think about it. Think about how this product is going to make sense to your overall scheme, overall ID scheme, because there are materials, different colors, different flooring, different walls. There are going to be so many things, and end of the day, they all have to come together, in a synergy together. And that is how I think a good lighting, a feel can be created in the house.
And can we talk a bit about lighting impact on our health and the circadian rhythm and everything? Just a bit about it to explain the audience.
See, like I said, light as a subject, as an intangible subject, is, like I said, it's emotional. And in end of the day, the importance of natural daylight has become very important to us. Uh, People living in the urban environments are feeling the pinch of it. There is, of course, a full study done, in the papers where the lack of good natural lighting is leading people to health issues, and of course, and clinical depression is one of them. That's the reason doctors will always say that you must expose yourself to natural daylight, right? Plus, of course, a good lighting also has to do with your circadian rhythms, to at what time you are waking up and what time you're sleeping, right? Corporate people who are working in the nighttime, they need a certain lighting levels, so that their body clock doesn't change, right? So lighting has its overall impact on these subjects, and I think slowly people are responding, to these lighting requirements. So,
And talking about residential projects, because I think that is an area where people are still are not hiring a lot of lighting designers because people tend to choose lighting designers for more, say, retail or say hospitality. So, what are the ways to say maximize on both artificial and natural lighting in residential projects, especially apartments?
uh, see, of course, in our part of the world, in Delhi, of course, we have apartments, and of course, we have larger villas because we have space. And of course, once you go down Bombay or south, of course, there's a lot of apartment living happening. I mean, as an architect, what you can do is, of course, try to give larger openings to the northern side. Try to have minimum openings towards the west and the south side to avoid too much of natural harsh sun, right? Architecturally, as an interior designer, you can always take care of that aspect of lighting. But with respect to the artificial aspect of lighting, uh, lighting can actually make your space look bigger. When you do your lighting concepts, make sure, like I said to you, do a right lighting layering on your project. Whereas ambient lighting, task lighting, and focus lighting, which we always call the accent lighting, these three subjects have to be taken care of in any of the project, may it be an apartment or may it be a larger luxury house. Make sure that your corners are not dark. When your corners are dark, your spaces tend to look a bit smaller, right? So when we are designing lighting, we kind of do a site study and we understand where is the aspect of natural lighting coming and what is it that this project, this lighting is getting limited where. So there are spaces like a lot of basements, there's no natural light. We have now lighting products which are imitating natural daylight now. There are companies which are making natural, like a natural daylight product. So while the sun is changing its own angles and lighting levels and the lighting color in the daytime, the same lighting product is also imitating what the sun is doing. So that is the level of technology where people are now imbibing into, their basements and the areas where there's no natural daylight. But while in the apartments or in the luxury houses, take care of these three principal levels of ambient, focus, and task, and make sure that your spaces are larger. And you accent your spaces where the artwork is, you accent where the objects are. And I think once you create this beautiful lighting layering, I think the projects are definitely are going to look beautiful at the end of the day.
And what are the most important factors to consider when you are doing these, layering and whatever you've spoken about, ambient lighting, task lighting, focus lighting? What are the important factors to consider when you're actually choosing artificial lighting for specific spaces? Say, for example, you're doing a home or a retail or an office. So, how does your approach change in your artificial lighting design strategy?
Mm, yeah, it's a good question. See, Houses, of course, are different. Residential projects are
I
different
mean, you
because
are doing a lot of houses as well now. I've seen a lot of your projects now.
yeah, we do a lot of luxury houses. We do for a lot of our big clients in India and outside India. End of the day, uh, every project has its own brief, of course. Every architect
Right.
and every interior designer has its own brief, how they want house to look. Um, and of course, as we know, there are different interior design styles. There is modern, there's postmodern, there is minimal, there's neoclassical. There is different interior design styles which are coming out right now, industrial, as you can see. So while we are perceiving all these different kind of design language in our industry, we also have to understand what kind of a lighting layout would be there to complement this design strategy, right? For any house which is a minimal luxury house, the idea is that it has to look rich. It has to look big. Um, the materials being used, because like I said, you are spending anywhere between 500 rupees square foot of lighting to, let's say, 2000 rupees a square foot of lighting. People are spending that much amount of money, and they want their products to come out. They want that kind of a look. We make sure that our lighting layout, as a company, we try to restrict our lighting layout to a minimum lighting strategy. We don't tend to do overdo it. We will give lighting to where it is required, right? If it's a living room, everyone, and as Indians, we have a sentiment of brightness. Indians have a sentiment of brightness, whereas Southeast Asian culture doesn't have that sentiment. They like to have less light. Japanese will always have lesser lighting. You go to Thailand, you go to these kind of places and resorts, you will always find minimal lighting. But Indians as a race by itself, I think we like bright spaces. I'm not going to generalize it, but that has been my experience that 99% of the clients will always ask for a brightly lit space. So we make sure that while we make a layout which is open and can give client a flexibility of brightness, we also get into the technology aspect of it, that even if you don't want a brighter space, use a technology, use a lighting automation to create those beautiful lighting scenes to what you want. Maybe you just want lighting for your artworks. Maybe you just want lighting for your objects. Maybe you just want a lighting which is a post 10 o'clock scene and everyone is, winding down from the dinner. And you want a very subtle lighting layout. So our lighting layouts and concepts are then complemented with the use of technology, with lighting automation. So this is how I think we are trying to distribute from the houses to the offices. And office is all about high lux levels for the people who are working, take care of the right product selection, uh, give them a high quality product where the glare quality, is absolutely minimal. And of course, there are technological terms which we use to
Right,
guide
right.
the client to what is the right lighting product. So I think this is how we're kind of changing our lighting strategies from project to project. And of course, hotels also have its own lighting strategy. So this is how, and when we do monuments, of course, then of course is a different thing. And when we do forts, like we have done forts before, we have done a lot of heritage properties before. So, like I said, I think somewhere as an architect, it helps me to understand the project better. I think that is something which is definitely has come to my advantage and to my client's advantage. That as an architect, I'm able to understand to what the client is looking for and also the project architect. And I think somewhere that's why we get a repeat clientele all the time. That we are able to somewhere handhold our people, handhold our client, and give them to what they actually envisaged, on the day one.
Yeah, that's probably, I totally understand. There is this bridge that you can form between the client and the project architect in a much meaningful way, you know. And probably we just, before wrapping up this podcast, it's a very cliche but a very important question, that what do you see are the lighting trends for the next year now in 2025?
Hmm. Uh, for I think I'll say for the next year, I think coming for a few years, um, people are definitely are becoming more thoughtful about more human-centric lighting, which I think everyone is talking about. That how anybody or how specific person can alleviate its own lighting experience to where they are. They should have technology on their hands to change the lighting systems the way they want, definitely. that if someone wants to have an extra warm light, and we have lighting products available where they're actually imitating a candlelight, where they're
Oh,
talking about
cool.
absolutely very warm kind of a lighting product, and they're creating scene. When we say a warm light can actually now go to 1800 kelvins also, which is
Oh,
absolutely
that's pretty good.
very, very
Yeah.
warm, very orange. And then, of course, with this human-centric behavior of lighting, which people are now experimenting, we are also moving towards very small lighting products, very minimal lighting products. People want these lighting products not to be seen in the ceilings. They want a very subtle kind of a lighting scenarios. They don't want a large products to be there. They want a very, very thoughtful approach towards this lighting product. And
Everything
that's
needs
the
to be
reason
very
you now see
concealed and
lighting
not
products
very
which
in
are
your
becoming
face. Understood.
very, very minimal. So I think the lighting is moving towards now, which with a very clear direction of minimal size products, and I think use of technology will become quite important. And all
Yeah.
these years of different lighting ideas of lighting automation, sensors, uh, you know, I think people are now going to start using it a bit more thoughtfully. So I think this is where I see a more sensitive approach and more, open approach of using technology. Whereas people are a bit scared using technology. It's not that
Right.
technology is for younger generations. Even the older generation are now absorbing it.
Right.
And I think this is where the refinement of our technologies are going to come in. That when everybody to anybody will use technology, to make their lives a bit better. This is where I think the trends of I think few years are going to go now.
And do you still think that energy efficiency is one of the key or say paramount factors of because as you know we do you do retail. Of course, retail I'm not saying, but say luxury homes because people are focusing a lot on opulence and luxury. Do you think that energy efficiency just goes for a toss somewhere there?
Oh, see, like I said earlier, opulent homes, of course. I think I was saying this on another public platform that sometimes minimal lighting is a myth, um, because people want to celebrate their spaces, you know. And sometimes we have to teach them that you don't need too much lighting. Use a right product in a right way, and I'm sure your opulence will definitely reflect to what has been
Yeah, you
delivered.
don't need to make your houses like jewelry showrooms
You
because
don't have to make it like that,
yeah,
and while a lot of lighting manufacturers are also in this profession of design, so their, of course,
yeah.
approach is to specify as much lighting products as they can, in a
Um,
scene.
but it's a different, it's a business then. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think only when people realize that what they have done to my project, only that is when they realize that no, maybe we should have we should hire a professional to actually help us out. And I
hmm,
think this is where, the lighting efficiency concept goes a bit haywire when, different agencies come into it. But us as designers and professionals, we always aim that there should be a minimum usage of lighting, use good quality products, that you can use them for a few years to come. You don't have to use and throw.
right.
And because it is also, talking about, of course, global warming, things like these are being taken care of, so you have to be a bit more thoughtful now about these subjects. But like I said, energy efficiency definitely is primordial. And of course, not for homes, but for commercial people where the systems are running 24/7. They are
Right.
using technology where lighting is helping them save money. Because if you look at the overall building cost, um, ever since LEDs have come into the picture, the electrical cost, which was taken by lighting by 40%, and the other 40-50% was taken by the MEP. Now that
Right.
same 40-50% has now come down to 20-25%. You know,
Yes, yes. Yeah.
so lighting has taken over as a big responsible factor in reducing the cost, to the client. But still saying that a good lighting design and a good lighting concept can help save clients even more, you know, but
Hmm,
still
interesting.
making their projects look a bit better, right? And of course, as consultants, as designers, our aim, of course, is to save the money for our clients at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course, totally. I think it's been a very wonderful conversation with you, Vinayak, and I hope you had a great time.
Great.
And we would just like to wrap up this conversation today and hope to talk to you again in the future as well. Thank you so much for your time, Vinayak.
Shweta, thanks for having me. I hope I did was able to answer your questions, more
Of
elaborately
course,
and
we are totally enlightened. Thank you so much, Vinayak,
I
for
look
doing
forward to the
this.
next episode with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. Bye.
Bye. Bye.